Everybody, it's Annette from the Art of Intuition, and today we are going to delve into abandoning relationships, which is not a topic we like to discuss in general as humans, and when we're in our human consciousness, and it becomes even a more touchy subject when we go through our awakening and our ascension. Which ones do we try to take forward? Which ones do we just abandon? And I use the word abandon here because a lot of times the people that we close out the reality with, we move on to something else, we'll feel abandoned. We'll feel like we kind of left them. We'll feel like they don't understand. They don't understand why, because human relationships are a lot different. Human relationships are all very interwoven together. They're very corded. People call them cords of attachment. They're very intertwined. They're like, if anyone watches House of the Dragon with the Targaryens and they all intermarry and it's all intertwined, and it was a joke when your family tree's a circle, right? And it's just all kind of matted together and it's really not branching off anywhere. And that's kind of human relationships. We tend to keep the same ones for very long periods of time. In our human relationships, you'll have friends you had from college or friends you had from a job you had 25 years ago. And there are different reasons why we seem to feel like these relationships lasted longer. One, we didn't shift as much. Our human consciousness doesn't shift as quickly. You're always increasing in consciousness. That's why you will see people fall away and you will get some new people in. It's not that it doesn't happen. It just is a slower tick. It's a slower tick up the vibrationary frequency ladder there. And we stay in timelines a lot longer. We let them completely close out, crash around us before we move on to the next one. We don't see the signs of it closing out. We don't see what's coming in. We don't see any of that stuff. So as we continue to go into new relationships, I wanted to kind of put something out that kind of maybe gave you a heads up on why certain things you don't have the everlast that you feel like you had as humans. But we also had the interdependency on these people, and we had obligation energy. We had all these reasons to not go. And if you look at a lot of your relationships that lasted, decades, you'll feel there was obligation there. There's no way you can dive into some of these and not say, yeah, there was some times when I felt like it was time for me to go, but I felt obligated to stay. Sometimes we feel that with blood family. It's the same kind of thing, because we have the human soulmates and the ascension soulmates. And I did a video on that, so I'm not going to rehash that here. But just know there is a stark difference. And when you start getting into your ascension timelines, you're going to notice that you're going to be called upon to really evaluate relationships and really evaluate why all of a sudden they don't have that longevity anymore. And you feel the need to leave them, abandon them, close them out. In our mind, we close them out if you can. Sometimes you don't have the energy to close it out, whether it be money to close out that relationship, whether it be time, whether it be knowledge of how to close it out, and the highest aligned thing. Because I can't see it yet, right? I don't know what that even means. I just know it doesn't work. It's kind of like the old adage of, people who are divorcing and they fight over everything. And then it's like, you're just not unhappy enough yet. You get unhappy enough with the situation, you just leave everything and walk away. You just don't care anymore. And with our ascension, we're going to get there where you just don't care anymore. It doesn't matter anymore. You leave the keys in the door and you walk away. Putting a pin in it, knowing that at some point you're going to have to face the program that entangled in that relationship. Whether you face it with that person or you face it with a different person, you're going to have to at some point align it and face it and pull it apart to see why you couldn't do it here. Now I have the knowledge to close one out here in a way that is highest aligned. So you don't really get out of doing it, but there are times when you'll feel like, don't worry about closing it out, just walk away. And you'll feel that very strongly. It's like, you know what? It's too much. I'm gonna just leave, and then I'll come back later. And whether it be with that exact person, a lot of times it's not. It'll be new people that come in, but the same energy signature, because you haven't cleared it yet. So you're gonna call in something similar, but you'll be at a different knowledge base. You'll be at a different consciousness to be able to break it down and see, do I need to go through this again? You'll find your relationships get shorter in a sense, What you might have hung in for in your human consciousness for 5 years with a person, you'll get here and go, you know what, I think we can just wrap this shit up in about 3 weeks. We're going to get what we need out of this relationship as far as the energetic exchange, knowledge, clearing, whatever needs to be done. Because a lot of it you find you don't need the physical interaction to clear this stuff anymore. And that's what happens when you move into vibrational realities. Things are more energetic than physical. More things happened, in a sense, in your physical reality than they happen in your ascension realities, in your higher consciousness realities, because you clear more things energetically. You don't have to go through that experience. You don't have to have that. What you might have had to suffer through, in a sense, for 5 years because you didn't want to let it go. You wanted to wait for that whole damn thing to come down to the longest timeline possible. You look at it and go, no, it's kind of the same. I'm either going to totally pass on this because I'm not going to go through it again, or there's something there I need to experience I can't get to myself. I'm going to go through it, but instead of 5 years, it might be 5 months. It might be 3 weeks. And that's also what people call it quantum jumping. We're kind of jumping through experiences because we can kind of get to the meat of it. We don't need to sit here and repeat the same thing, 15 times and then get to that vibration where we can see it. We see it earlier. Our consciousness have more awareness. You can see this is going to go nowhere. I can already see the writing on the wall. It doesn't mean you still don't have to have the exchange. Sometimes you still have to have the exchange because there is if you're still operating under soul contract there to exchange energetic information, to still talk to that person, to have some type of relationship with that person. You find your relationships have a different connection. They might not have the longevity, but there's a deeper connection with people because you can connect deeper with people when you're connected deeper with yourself. And that's why eventually people in their human consciousness, those relationships start to wither very quickly because you can only connect with someone as deep as you're connected. So you can connect very deeply with a person, but if they're still operating from a human consciousness and have not connected with themselves, they can't connect that way with you. So it becomes where you feel like you're giving 100% and they're giving 10%. And it's not because they don't care. It's just they don't have that capacity yet. They don't have the depth yet. So they start to feel shallow. They start to feel like you don't have an interest in them. And the things that used to entice people into relationships, they don't have the same hold anymore. You don't do it for sex. You don't do it for money. You don't go into relationships for any of these things anymore. You go into relationships for creation. You go into relationships to build something. You go into relationships to be with someone that has a consciousness that you can both grow together with, and not someone that you feel like you got to drag uphill. So they do get shorter, and you don't have to spend as much time with people because you can also affect people with your presence in a shorter period of time because your consciousness is different. It is, you're operating from a different vibrational frequency, and some people don't want to be around that because it messes with their world too much and they're in a different place. And you might find people, you might start to feel abandoned. It can flip too, where you feel like people are just leaving and abandoning you, and that's not personal because they just don't want to be around you. So it's that old adage, it's not you, it's me. No, it's us. They don't want to be around us. But not because of, but we take it personal. It's they don't want to be around our vibration. Their body can't physically take the vibration for a long period of time because it starts to interfere with their vibration that's spinning in a different direction, and it starts bringing up all their stuff. So the enjoyment's not there. If they live on drama, which is what our human lives on, is drama and, all that, what I want to call it. When we're fueled by the external and drama, when you're not anymore trying to connect with people who still are, you're not fun anymore to them, in a sense too. You can even take it down to that you can take it down to that path too. You're not feeding that. You're not feeding the drama. You're not feeding the chaos. And that's what, as humans, that's what we wanted. We wanted to feed the drama, feed the chaos, feed the chaoticness, because it distracted us from ourselves. All these things are built into our human matrix to distract us from ourselves. It's not a personal thing. And so whether you feel abandoned or if other people feel like you're abandoning them, we really start to see relationships are getting shorter. We're not connecting really with anybody at any type of long term. They're very short interactions. One, we need to be with ourselves for a while. We need to connect with ourselves. We don't want other people around. We don't need that interference. So our universe won't even bring them around. We are in a different frequency than a lot of people in our realities, and we just don't feel the connection. We're meant to feel isolated, so we go deeper and to connect with ourselves. We're kind of isolating from everyone. We've kind of become our own island. And even relationships you might have had for 20 or 30 years end like that. And they're gone. And no one can really say why. You're always in that, you can be in that if you really look at them and go, nothing really happened. There's no really set thing that happened where that person, there was no argument. It's all of a sudden these people just don't call me anymore. I don't really feel the need to call them anymore. And we used to be close and now we're just not, because vibrationally we're moving apart. They don't hold in the timeline you're in. They can come back later. Some of mine will come in and out, but a majority of the time you get new people. And honestly, sometimes you just want new people. You don't want to keep rehashing the same thing with people who are in a completely different part of their process than you are. You don't have the obligation. You start to see that that's just obligation to keep you in a lower frequency, because if they're operating in a lower frequency and we go back and continue to play in that, well, now we're operating at that frequency, and it's taking us back to old timelines, taking us back to, basically when we were there. And that is not what our ascension process is long term. So even if we try to do that, you try to put your body back into a lower frequency, your body rejects it. You'll get sick. You won't feel good. You will be like, oh, you're drained. You're exhausted. You cannot move forward, because you can feel the compression, the bars, the compromise again, to go back and I got the carrot dangled and I went back into this timeline and it's the same old shit. And nothing's really shifted, because no one's really shifting here. And I want to go and get into something else, but we have to physically move ourselves into something else. Moving into different realities means we got to get our ass up and go. We can't sit around and go, I want to go into different realities, but I'm just going to sit here and wait for something else to happen. Eventually something else will happen. Yeah, eventually the whole shit caves down on us, because our universe is like, dude, I told you to go. You're not listening. When you're human, we don't see the signs of it's time to go. When we get into higher consciousness, we see the signs, and sometimes we don't want to go, because we still will be working through some of those programs, some of that abandonment, some of that abandoning other people, not understanding why all of a sudden our relationships are shorter. We're not interacting with people for long periods of time. Even people that we feel like we're kind of really connected with, that relationship that you would have thought, oh, we could expand years out because we're both going through, maybe we're both in our ascension together, and we're both talking about that all the time, and we're so into that type of stuff, and we were talking about our programming, and we're trying to weed through it together. And all of a sudden they're gone, and you're like, well, I thought we were going to be, closer to, but people move at different parts through their ascension process, and people might have human things they want to go back and do. It happens, people will go back and go, no, I decided I wanted to have this romantic relationship, so I'm going to go back and do that. Or I decided I want to go have kids, and I'm going to go back and do that. And so people can kind of get, I don't want to say sidetracked, but go in a different way. Or even if they don't feel like they're going in a different way in that sense, they have a different vision of what they want to do in their process. And then that's not your vision. I mean, everyone has a different vision. Ascended realities are in a point, you're living from heavenly dimensions. That's what it is. Well, everyone has a different idea of what heaven is for them, and it still might not work. So at first we get bogged down on this. We think, oh, we got abandoned again, or I abandoned these people because it just doesn't work. It doesn't feel right anymore. Then you'll kind of get out of that, and you start getting out of that to a point where you really are very peculiar. in a sense, about who is in your world. You really don't want people around for that long, because also we understand we're taking on their karma, we're taking on their journey too. So if they're in one part of their ascension we've worked through, well, we're going to go through that with them again when they get to, the part that we've already done. We're going to go back through that again with them to support them through that. And then we got to go through that again. So sometimes we'll look and go, I don't know if we got to do that. I don't know if that's my agreement with this person. Maybe it is. Maybe you feel like I'm supposed to do this. Maybe you're like, I don't think I have to stick around for this part. We do get to a point though where we do not feel the obligation. We kind of get used to the shorter things. The shorter spurts of relationships, the long period without anybody. And we stop having the obligation to have people there. We kind of work through the programming of that abandonment, feeling abandoned, being abandoned, abandoning others. Because we understand there's something else. We're going towards something else. There will be people that'll come in that will stay when it's really time to build something out. The whole point of ascension is to have unification. When you get to certain parts, and that is the point. But there's also times when you might feel like, oh, I found that. We were all living together cohesively, even though everyone's in a different consciousness. But we're all kind of living together in this kind of reality where one person's bringing in the money, one person's doing all the jobs around the house, and it all feels fine. But you start to see chinks in that, because if people are still operating from a human consciousness, that's still their dominant consciousness, their home base consciousness, their set point in a sense. You will start to see it start to erode away, because at the end of the day, they still will be separate. And they'll still be valuing the reality on what is a human reality. This is mine. And when you've been through a relationship with someone for maybe 3 to 4 to 5 years, or 2 to 3 years, and you feel like, yeah, we've lived together, we've all kind of contributed in different ways, and then you start to see that stuff coming up again, and you're like, well, it's been 2 years or 2.5 years, if you've really busted your ass in a reality, and you still see someone saying, well, everything that comes in is mine, this is mine, and it doesn't matter what you're doing, this is mine over here, and I don't really value what you're doing. I don't see a value on what you're doing, because maybe it's not bringing in money. So they're bringing in the money, right? And they don't see the value in what you're doing, even though you could look and go, God, I just bust my ass. And after 2 or 3 years, if you're not seeing that, what's the point of continuing the relationship? We'll get to a couple ones like that too, where if we haven't moved anything in 2 to 3 years, where there's still that underlying human consciousness running through, where it's all separate, it's mine, there's greed there is judgment there. And if you're still feeling the judgment, then it's our judgment too. If we're not really feeling it, we just kind of feel wow, that's kind of, in a way, just, I'm going to use the word disappointment, because it feels disappointing, I guess, when you're like, wow, I really thought we were moving somewhere, or you had shifted, maybe that's a better way to say it. We really shifted someone else's consciousness, right? To be able to live together and everyone get along, and everyone contribute something different. And that is really what we're all working toward, but being able to all coexist together, right? And assist each other and support each other. And when you start to see, we've been doing this for years, but at the basis of that consciousness with the other people is still the human consciousness, then you're like, well, we didn't really get anywhere. All right, you feel like you haven't gotten anywhere. Like, well, we're still in the same place we were. This is probably not going to shift. And then you have to look at, okay, this is going to have to go too, because how much more energy are we going to put into it? How many more years we put into something where if we haven't moved the needle with the person in 3 to 4 years, where they want to support in complete unity the way you have supported them, whether it doesn't matter if it is with money or was whatever it was, but you don't get that reciprocation back, or you feel like it's a lot of backlash to that, it's still a very, let's separate everything out. This is mine, I've seen that a lot lately, where this is mine and that is yours and this is mine. And it can be the point where you look and go, okay, why keep putting energy in? And that's what we get to with a lot of our relationships. Why keep putting energy in? What's the point of continuing to put energy in when at the end of the day, here we are again. We're right back where we were. And that is the issue with aligning any reality. And sometimes we're supposed to. So, if someone says, well, gee, Annette, these are the people in my reality and they're a human consciousness. What am I supposed to do? This is everyone that gets brought to me. This is everyone I get plopped down with, And there's a reason for that. I mean, we're supposed to help expand their consciousness. We're supposed to bring them along, show them what it is, but they still might not want to carry it forward. It might not be their time yet. They might be deciding that, through death, they're going to ascend that way, and they're not going to ascend the way we are ascending. They're going to go a different path, or they're not going to do it now. They're going to do it in 20 years from now. But we still activate the consciousness in them. There's still a reason why you're the most conscious person in your reality for a long time, because you're supposed to assist everybody else and see if you can hold it when you're around unconscious people, which just means they're operating from their human consciousness. That's all that means. And we were unconscious too. That's how we all started. They just haven't started yet. They don't understand. They don't see the value in what you're bringing. They don't value your presence as much as maybe you would like them to value your presence. So we get to so many relationships like this where we really have to turn around and look at them and go, okay, is this really worth it? How much more time do I put into this? If we're not moving the needle. So there's a reason why you're there, and there's a reason why after a while your universe will show you through different experiences, things will start coming in, where you'll see different realities come in that kind of start to show you one or two things. It's going to show you, okay, I gotta go. I just gotta I gotta close this out. It's not going anywhere. After so many years, we're still in the same place. It's no reason to waste any more time. They're not in the place for it right now. I've done all I could do, and now it's time for me to move on. Or it can also be a universe kind of showing you this is about to really shift and collapse, and this is why. Because you can see that, and to me it's happened, different ways, different times. If it was one where I really needed to see it so I could move out of a reality because I felt like, I was staying there to support this person, and the minute I needed support, they were not there. Clearly they're like, I can't do that. I can't help you. I know you've helped me every time I needed assistance, but I can't really help you. It's a way to kind of get you to move away from them, and in a sense, sometimes it might be the only thing that ties you to a reality. And the minute they say no, and you're like, what the hell, all I've done is support, and now this is not reciprocated, then you go. Because it's like, there's no point in pursuing it. They're not in a place to go any farther, in a sense. They've gone as far as they're comfortable going. And it's time for us to see that and go. It's time for us to really be open about that and go, well, okay, if this is not working, why am I still in this reality? It's time for me to go. And you might get to another ascended timeline, and when you're in the situation again, and you keep showing that a lot of these things keep coming up again and again and again, because we're learning, we're tweaking, we're starting to see the signs early, we're starting to understand why. You can start to see, okay, the same thing, So this reality is going to come to an end. You might be feeling you don't have to do anything, right now. It's just going to end organically. You don't have to do anything to end it. And we've had some videos on what to do when we're supposed to do something, when we're not, and when we have to really check inside to see. But this is ending, and this is why, because it's gone as far as it can go, and it can't go any farther. And so there's no reason to continue putting all your energy into that. Just focus on the things that are moving in the reality, and just start setting up the next one, because this one is coming to a close. As long as we don't resist the close, and we're open, and when we start to see the signs, break your lease, sell your house, move to this location, whatever you feel, when we start to really feel that, we start to go. But we'll see the signs and we'll start to understand, whereas before we would have missed those. These are all those subtle signs that as human consciousness we could not grapple. We couldn't really see them. We couldn't really get to them. And once we can see them and get to them, we're like, oh, there, I see that. I understand now. I understand why this can't, and it's time to move forward. And once you understand that and can feel that, it's easier to also process, if you want to grieve it, you can grieve it, you can feel the loss of it, and move forward. And you will start to see, especially this time of year, you're at the Lion's Gate, ever since summer solstice came in and showed us this is things we got to start to move out of our reality, you'll start to see things start to come in the Lion's Gate. These are focuses you're going to have for next year. These other things are going to be ending because they can't go forward anymore. There's no point of all this energy going forward. It's just not going to go anywhere. This relationship has tip-top built out. You know, you got what you came here for, what you're supposed to come here for, you fulfilled your contract. It can't go any farther. There's no reason to hold on. There's no reason to keep dragging it on. You know, it's time to start focusing on the next one, building the next one. You might not be physically leaving that one yet, but you will feel your focus really shift to the next one, and starting to build that out, what that looks like, how you want that to look, where you want to go, you know. And maybe everyone in the house you live, maybe they all moved out and you stay where you are. You will find that the information is there, but if we're so in grief over what we have to go away from, it clouds us getting it. Now, yes, we're clearing that. Yes, we have to clear the grief to get to it. But if you can't see it yet, there's a lot of holding on. And if you don't see anything else coming in, it's because we're holding on, or it's not coming in the way you want it to come in. You know, sometimes it comes in, it's like, boy, I want it to come in differently. That's not sexy enough. That's not this big blah, you know, it's not this big action adventure thing I wanted it to come in like, you know, this is not this big, I want this big Indiana Jones, you know, dun 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 dun, kind of come, the reality kind of storming in. I'm not seeing that. It's more like a little kind of a little whisper somewhere, and you're like, wait a minute, what was that? What was that? I think I heard something. I have to go, well, let me just see if I can hear it louder later. So don't get discouraged if you're not sure what next. Just really see and understand why your relationship have shifted so much, and why there's so many of abandoning, you know, different things as we've gone. So I'm going to end it there. So this is not super long, and I will see everyone next time. Keep practicing the art of intuition.